Imagine an emperor who ruled the stars, a court that mocked a human janitor, and a mop that hid a secret powerful enough to summon the most feared creatures in the galaxy. Laughter turned to silence. Shadows darkened the station, and in one breath, the fate of empires changed forever. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and tell us in the comments where are you watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. The Starlight Citadel was the most powerful station in the Valerian Dominion. Its halls stretched like rivers of steel and glass, polished until they caught the light of the nebula outside. Leaders from across the galaxy gathered there to honor Emperor Khador. And yet, in the middle of this grandeur, one figure moved quietly with a mop and a cart. His name was Milo Hart, the only human janitor on the station. For 3 years, Milo had pushed his cart down those endless corridors. He had learned how to disappear, how to be overlooked. To the Valerians, humans were service workers, clever but simple. Invisibility was his shield, and a mop was his only tool. Yet hidden behind this quiet work, Milo carried knowledge his alien masters could not imagine. Emperor Khador was tall and imposing, his skin glowing with shifting lines of light that revealed his moods to his people. When amused, the light rippled like waves. When angered, it burned sharp like lightning. That day, his laughter echoed across the grand chamber. Courtiers repeated it nervously, afraid to appear out of step with their ruler. Then Khador noticed something unusual. His many-pupiled eyes narrowed as he spotted Milo passing with his cart outside the open doors of the hall. "What is that creature doing here?" the emperor asked. Rilvek, the overseer of the station, bowed quickly and answered, "Your Majesty, that is just a maintenance worker, a human, reliable and inexpensive." Khador leaned forward, fascinated. "A human? I have heard of them. Bring it closer." Guards moved toward Milo. Though they were not rough, their grip was firm, and resistance was impossible. Milo kept his head low, knowing survival depended on humility. He was brought before the throne, his mop still in his hand. "Look at me, human," Khador commanded. Milo obeyed. He saw the emperor's crown of crystal spires, which caught the light like fragments of stars. The ruler was more intimidating up close, towering above everyone. "What is your name and duty?" Khador asked. "Milo Hart, Your Majesty," the janitor said with a steady voice. "Sanitation worker. I keep the station clean." The emperor tilted his head. "You clean waste? With what tool?" Lifted his mop slightly. "With this, Your Majesty. It is called a mop." The emperor laughed. His mandibles clicked together in amusement. The sound filled the chamber. "A stick with threads? Why not use purification beams like civilized beings?" Milo had heard this. He spoke calmly. "Sometimes human hands see what machines miss, Your Majesty, and this way is cost-effective." The word cost-effective set off another round of laughter. The emperor roared at the thought of economy being a concern. Still smiling, he leaned closer. "Tell me, human, what other primitive skills do you possess?" Milo hesitated. He knew there were truths about humans that could never be revealed. Instead, he gave a harmless answer. "I can whistle, Your Majesty." "Whistle? Demonstrate." Milo pursed his lips and played a simple tune, one his grandfather had taught him. The court fell silent. Bioluminescent lines flickered in confusion. The sound of music without instruments unsettled them. "You produce melody with nothing but breath?" Khador asked, surprised for the first time. "Yes, Your Majesty, most humans can." The emperor settled back, amusement slowly returning. "Quaint, but hardly impressive. I have musicians who can bend reality with sound." He waved a dismissive hand. Return to your mopping. Relieved, Milo bowed and backed away. But Cater's curiosity had not ended. One more thing, the Emperor said. They say humans bond with lesser creatures. Is this true? Milo thought carefully. Yes, Your Majesty. We form connections with animals, even reptilian ones. Some we call dragons. The Emperor burst into laughter again. But the court grew uneasy. The human speaks of dragons as mythology, Cater said. Does he not know they once burned civilizations to ash? A hologram flickered to life above the dais. It showed a vast creature with wings like blades, crystal ridges on its spine, and eyes filled with ancient knowledge. The Vidian Fire Lords, the courtier explained, the oldest known species in the galaxy. Their power is unmatched. Their wrath is legendary. Milo stared at the image. He recognized it. These were the same beings humans had rediscovered on Earth. Dragons once thought to be myths. Kador studied Milo's reaction. Your face reveals something, human. Have your people met them? Milo kept his answer cautious. They appear in our legends, Your Majesty. Nothing more. The Emperor's glow lines pulsed slowly as he considered. Then he pointed to Milo's mop. Show me how you clean, human. I wish to see this primitive tool at work. Rilvek looked surprised but obeyed the Emperor's order. The reception hall requires preparation for tomorrow's delegation. Perhaps the human can demonstrate there. Kador nodded. Excellent. Take me to watch. Milo felt his pulse quicken. The Emperor's attention was no small thing. And yet, fate had already moved into place. Above them, beyond the dome of the station, something vast stirred in the nebula. The first shadow of wings darkened the light. The reception hall of the Starlight Citadel glowed under the transparent dome. Beyond the glass stretched a river of stars and nebula clouds, calm and endless. Yet calm is fragile, and within moments it began to break. Alarms rang in the overseer's comms. Rilvek's voice turned sharp as he demanded reports. What signature did you detect? He asked. The reply made the entire chamber freeze. Sector 7 shows a Vidian-class energy field. Life form approaching. For the court, the words were unthinkable. The Vidian Fire Lords had not been seen in this part of the galaxy for thousands of years. They were legends, feared as destroyers, remembered as ancient rulers. But the station scanners could not lie. Emperor Kador's glowing skin patterns shifted to angles of alarm. He turned his gaze upward. The chamber followed his eyes. Shadows began to spill across the dome. A shape emerged from the nebula, larger than any vessel built by hands. Wings unfolded. Worm, spanning wider than the hall itself. Crystalline ridges along its back shimmered with living light. Its head, crowned in natural armor, tilted forward. Then its eyes, two vast lakes of emerald and sapphire, locked directly onto the human standing below. The courtiers gasped. Some fell to their knees. Others backed away, watching at each other. Guards raised their weapons, but froze under the Emperor's command. Hold, Kador ordered. His voice was steady, though his glow betrayed unease. We must see why it comes. Milo stood motionless, the mop still in his hands. He had hoped to remain invisible forever, but invisibility was gone. The dragon had found him. The dome trembled as a low sound rolled across it. Not a roar, but a deep harmony that vibrated through stone, glass, and bone alike. Many Valerians covered their auditory frills in pain, but to Milo, the sound was music, ancient words carried not by language, but by resonance. She speaks to you? Kador asked. Watching Milo closely, Milo nodded once. Yes, her name is Lysara. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. You name it as if it is a companion. She is no companion, Milo replied. She is a guardian, and she has come because of me. Rilvek gave orders to security teams to form barriers. Torna, the chief bioanalyst, scanned the dragon with trembling hands. The energy readings match historical accounts, they whispered. yet her resonance is calmer, almost harmonious with the station itself. As the dragon pressed closer, cracks formed across the dome. People cried out, "The strong and she has chosen me." Lysara's glowing eyes focused on the mop. The faint scent of dragon mint still clung to its fibers. With deliberate calm, Milo lifted the mop high, as though presenting it to the stars. Then he spoke, not in the common tongue, but in the old words passed through human generations, words never written, only remembered. His grandfather had taught him these phrases by firelight. The sound left his lips softly, yet it carried strength that filled the hall. The cracks in the dome ceased spreading. The dragon's resonance lowered, becoming a gentle hum. Weapons wavered as guards looked from their emperor to the creature beyond the glass. "What is he saying?" Rilvek asked in a hushed voice. Torna shook their head. "Unknown, but the readings show the creature responding. The dome is stabilizing." The emperor released Milo's arm, more curious now than angry. "You calm it with words," he said. "Primitive words, not machines." "She does not hear the word." Milo replied softly, "She hears the truth in them." Outside, Lysara's wings folded closer. She pressed her massive head gently against the dome, as if to look deeper into the hall. Her breath fogged the glass in swirls like ancient runes. A second alarm buzzed through Rilvek's comm. 2 more Vidian signatures detected, approaching fast. Fear gripped the room again. If 1 dragon was enough to shake the citadel, what would 3 do? Kador lifted his hand to silence the chaos. "Fleet Command will be eager to fire," he said, "but I will not. Not yet. This is no battle to be won by weapons." He turned his attention back to Milo. "Human, you stand between empires and legends. Who are you, truly?" Milo met his gaze. "A janitor," he said, "but also a keeper of promises made long ago." The emperor studied him in silence. Then, to the astonishment of his court, he gave a small nod. "So be it. Today we will hold fire. Today we will listen." Outside the dome, Lysara hummed in approval. The shadow of her wings darkened the station, but her presence brought not destruction, only a waiting stillness. The hall stood frozen, caught between fear and awe. And in that moment, the fate of the galaxy rested not with fleets or emperors, but with a human janitor holding a glowing mop beneath the gaze of a dragon. The Starlight Citadel no longer felt like a place of order. The grand hall, once filled with ceremonial laughter, now carried only whispers and the heavy sound of breathing. Above the dome, Lysara hovered, her vast wings casting shifting shadows across the marble-like floor. And as the court trembled, Emperor Kador kept his eyes fixed on Milo, the human janitor who held nothing but a mop, glowing with dragon light. "How long," the emperor asked, "has your kind hidden this truth?" Milo stood tall, though his voice stayed calm and steady. "Long enough to keep peace. Long enough to protect both humans and dragons. We never lied. We only kept quiet until the time was right." The overseer Rilvek struggled to keep order, giving instructions to security. Guards stood tense at the edges of the hall, their weapons drawn but useless against the power waiting outside the dome. The scientist Torna scanned data frantically, her instruments flashing with readings too strange to match any record. "These patterns are not the same as the burning times," Torna whispered. "Her energy harmonizes with the station itself. It is not chaos, it is balance." Kador's gaze never left Milo. "Your race has advanced faster than most. Now I see why. You had help. You had guardians." Milo shook his head. "Not guardians. Friends. They never fought our battles. They never built our machines. They simply stood by us when the galaxy might have crushed us. They trusted us to grow, and we trusted them in return." Outside, the dragon shifted, her hum deepened. And then the stars darkened as more shapes emerged. 3 additional dragons joined Lysara, their colossal forms circling the station with patient grace. The dome vibrated as their energy pressed against it. Yet the glass did not shatter. The court panicked. Advisors begged the Emperor to call in the fleet. Rilvek reported that warships were already moving into range. Kador stood silent, weighing every voice, until finally he spoke with authority. "Hold the fleet," he commanded. "No weapons, no fire. We will not begin a war in panic." His orders stunned the hall. Yet outside, the dragons answered with a softer tone, a harmony that echoed like a promise. Milo raised the mop, its fibers now glowing brighter with the shimmer of dragon breath. "She asks for patience," he said. "She asks if you are willing to listen, Emperor." Kador's glowing lines pulsed, showing conflict and deep thought. "And if I listen, what will she tell me?" "She will tell you," Milo said, "that the galaxy is not built on empires alone. It is built on bonds between species, bonds between those who choose trust instead of fear." The court shifted uncomfortably. Words like trust and bonds were not common in the Dominion's politics. Yet Kador listened, his sharp eyes locked on Milo as though he were reading a new kind of map. Torna looked up from her device. "The dragons are resonating with the hall's floor compound," she said in awe. "It is as though the Vey material is singing back to them." Milo nodded. "The compound is similar to their scales. They sense care in its polish. That is why I clean it by hand. It is not just work, it is respect." The Emperor stepped closer, towering over the human. "So, you mean to tell me," he said, his voice carrying both doubt and fascination, "that the most feared creatures in our galaxy are calmed not by weapons, but by your patience with a mop?" "Not by the mop," Milo replied, "by the care behind it. Dragons do not bow to force. They answer to respect." Silence stretched. Then, as if to confirm his words, Lysara pressed her head once more against the dome. She released a thin veil of shimmering mist. It passed through the barrier without cracking it, falling like morning dew upon the floor. Wherever it touched, the stone gleamed brighter, glowing faintly as though infused with starlight. The court gasped. Rilvek whispered, "She is helping him clean." Kador lowered his gaze to the shining floor, then back to Milo. For the first time in years, genuine laughter, not mockery, escaped his throat. The galaxy trembles, and here I stand watching a dragon polish my reception hall. Milo allowed himself a small smile. "Greatness doesn't always come with noise, Your Majesty. Sometimes it comes quietly, with a mop in hand." The Emperor's glowing lines softened into flowing patterns of thought. His voice dropped lower, almost respectful. "Tell me, human, what do you seek?" "An accord," Milo answered. "An understanding between Earth, your dominion, and the dragons who once left us but now return. Not power, not conquest, simply a path to live without fear." The Emperor paused for a long time. His court waited, their fear balanced between destruction and diplomacy. Then Kador nodded once, firm but careful. "Very well, you will have your chance to prove this bond. But know this, if you deceive me, not even your dragons will shield you from my judgment." "Truth has no need to deceive," Milo replied. "And trust is the only polish strong enough to last." Outside, the 4 dragons circled slowly, guardians of a fragile moment. Inside, a human janitor and an emperor stood face to face, their futures balanced on respect and the promise of a shining floor. 6 months later, the Starlight Citadel no longer carried whispers of fear. Instead, it stood as the chosen ground for a gathering unlike any the galaxy had seen. The diplomatic hall, once the scene of mockery and shadows, now held banners from 12 great powers. The floor gleamed brighter than ever, not just from polish, but from the memory of dragons who had touched it with their breath. Milo Grant was no longer dressed as a janitor, though he still kept the mop at his side. The stat had been reforged with crystal bindings and inscribed with symbols of alliance. It was no longer only a cleaning tool. It was a sign of his bond with the dragons, a sign that even the smallest tools could carry great meaning. Emperor Kador entered in full regalia, his glowing patterns pulsing in steady rhythms of pride and authority. Beside him walked Ambassador Lena Hart, Earth's chosen voice. She spoke with calm conviction as she addressed the gathering. Today, we take a step beyond suspicion and fear. Today, Earth and the Dominion enter a new accord, not for power, but for trust. Her words echoed, and many dignitaries shifted uneasily. Alliances had always been forged with fleets and weapons. But this was different. This was built on a human janitor's bond with dragons that no empire had dared to approach. As the speeches continued, shadows passed again across the dome. Heads lifted in awe. 3 dragons hovered silently above, their vast wings stretched wide, their eyes glowing with patience and intelligence. They had not come as conquerors. They had come as witnesses. The presence of Lysera and her kin changed the air itself. No one in the chamber dared speak lightly under their watch. Some trembled, others stared in reverence. But Emperor Kador lifted his chin and spoke clearly. Let it be recorded that the Vidian Fire Lords stand watch as we sign this accord. No longer as myths, no longer as threats, but as honored allies. Milo felt the dragon's resonance through the floor, a low vibration meant only for him. He listened closely, then whispered back in the old words of Earth. It was a message of approval, a promise that the dragons would guard this fragile new step. As the accord was signed, the court erupted, not in laughter, but in applause. Even Rilvek, who had once seen humans as servants, bowed his head. Torna wept quietly as her instruments confirmed what her eyes already knew. Peace could be measured not only in energy, but in courage. After the ceremony, dignitaries crowded around Milo, curious about the man who had turned a mop into a bridge between worlds. He answered humbly, never claiming to be more than what he was. I was a janitor, he said, and I still am. Only now my work is not just with floors, but with futures. Emperor Kador approached him with a rare expression, genuine amusement softened by respect. You once told me that humans polish floors with care because it shows respect. Today, you polish the galaxy itself. Do not think I will forget that. Milo smiled faintly. Dragons do not forget either, Your Majesty, and neither should we. Outside the dome, Lysera lowered her head once more, her breath swirling into patterns that sparkled against the glass. The mist left no cracks this time, only light. The court watched silently as the dragons shifted into formation and drifted back toward the stars. Kador's court stood in awe. Never before had such creatures appeared in peace at a diplomatic signing. It was a history written not by war, but by trust. Later that night, when the hall was empty, Milo remained with his mop. He moved it across the polished floor in slow, steady strokes. The mop still glowed faintly from the dragon's blessing, leaving a shine that no machine could copy. As he worked, he whispered quietly, not for anyone else, but for himself. It started with a laugh, he said, and ended with an accord. Above him, the stars gleamed. Somewhere beyond, dragons circled patiently, their bond with humanity now revealed. The janitor who once hid in shadows had become a bridge between empires and legends. And yet, as he pressed the mop across the shining, he knew one truth that had never changed. Sometimes the smallest tasks carry the greatest power. The new accord had been written not with ink alone, but with courage, respect, and the quiet strength of a human who dared to believe that even dragons could trust him. And in the stillness of the hall, the sound of the mop moving across stone was not just cleaning. It was history being polished into light.